Good morning and welcome to Gulfstream today on what is a beautiful day here in Hollandale Beach. It was a little sticky yesterday, but the humidity's dropped down a little bit. As you can see, it's the main track is fast, the turf is firm. We've got the Tapeta, Brian Nadeau, Ashley Mayu with you as we draw in on a 9-race card. With a big weekend ahead, not only here, but of course at Santa Anita as well.
Yeah, a lot of action upcoming those next couple of days. You mentioned Santa Anita Park. They have a big day tomorrow, Santa Anita Derby Day. I think they have 7 stakes races in total, so a lot of action on the West Coast. And we actually have 11 races tomorrow as well, so a lot of races for you to get through.
Yeah, we'll talk about Santa Anita a little bit later in the lightning round, but we're drawing in on 56 minutes to post for the opener here. As I mentioned, the 9-race card. We'll take a look at my early pick 5, scratch down from $48 to $18. We've got some scratches early on in the card. It held together nicely late. I'll single right off the rip here. Adios Gary, odds on right now for Joe Orsino. And then we've got spreads a little bit in the next 4 races. King Cairo on top of race 2. For me, my long shot is long gone. Ride on Beauty was 20-1 on the morning line. I don't quite think we're going to get that anymore in race 2. 7-6 is the actual order there. 1-3-11 in order in race 4. Uncaptured Faith will be our first replay of the day coming up in a little bit. And then to get out in race 5, 7-8 in order, Little Demon and Man on the Moon. $18 play to start off the card in that early pick 5. I got over almost 400,000 in that pool yesterday, so it's still a very, very healthy pool. We kick it off on a firm turf course in the opener. Ashley made an optional claimer here. For 3-year-olds and up, we go a snappy about 5 furlongs on the turf, and I don't think it's any surprise that we both land on the 4 Adios Gary.
Now, when you look at the field and kind of what they've done recently and the level of races that they're coming out of, in the case of Adios Gary, is at that $50,000 optional last time out. Not in for the tag because he is a Florida bred. He finished 3rd. I thought it was a good performance. It was his first start off the layoff and his first time sprinting on the grass, and I like what I saw from him. He was close to the pace, but not too far off of it.
Yeah, added Lasix that day, and if he runs back to that effort, they won't beat him today. You go number 2, Awesome Crusader. I think the battle for second could be wide open. Ralph Nix had a huge championship meet, looking to continue that here.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Ralph had a great meet. You look at this horse, a little inconsistent in terms of form. He's got those 3 second-place finishes out of 9 career starts, but for me, last time out, I don't know, he woke up a little bit. He got on the Tapeta going 5.5. They stretched him out 2 starts back. They cut him back, and he was only beaten by a half a length in there behind Street Facts. He was gaining ground late. Edwin Gonzalez going to climb aboard. To me, there's some upside with him, and I'll be curious to see what the price is. I think the 4 obviously will be heavily favored, so maybe he'll offer some value.
Yeah, without a doubt. Got to the Tapeta last time, and sometimes we think if they can handle that, they can handle the turf as well. Regimental Command did the dirty work last time, finished behind Adios Gary at 65-1. I don't know if that scared the public or not, because I'm looking over here now. 13-1 will be a very, very square price if you take it at face value, and I admit might be a little tough to do. It was a pretty big effort.
It was a big effort. He was part of that pace scenario. He was on the lead, and he tired in the final stages there. It was only his 2nd career start, so you have to think maybe some upside making that 3rd career start today. Going to get a rider change as well. So I thought he was intriguing for a minor share in here.
And the rider is Wilfred Vasquez, and I've talked about him a few times. I think he's all right. So, maybe take note of him, a young rider that I think is poised to win a few races here. That's the opener early pick 4 time in race number 2. These are $6,250 claimers. They are 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds and up. It's a mile, a flat 1-turn mile. Well, we're making good TV here. 3-1-2 right in a rip here. King Cairo off the claim for Jorge Delgado. We've got a trainer stat to take a look at.
Yeah, well, look at this stat for Jorge Delgado. Obviously, we know he claims a lot of horses here at Gulfstream Park, but just looking more kind of in a narrow window of the last 6 months, he's 10 for 24, 42% in terms of wins, 71% in the money with a $2.30 ROI. And this is a horse, it's not even just a claim back. He's had this horse now 3 times through the career, so he keeps on going back for this horse. It is a $6,250 claimer. Last time out was 3rd behind Prospect Project, who draws to his inside today. I just think when you looked at the field, there's basically, in my opinion, 2 horses that could get the job done. It's King Cairo or it's Hero. And to me, Hero had a big effort last time out, but the number, it's a shock because it was an 81 buyer, but I think it might have been a little bit of a fluke. So for me, I go to King Cairo.
Yeah, and Junior's on King Cairo as well. And if you're not aware, he's going to stick around for the summer. I think that's going to lead to a lot of wins. You mentioned Hiro down inside, an 81, a 5 on the thoroughgraphs. That was for Jose D'Angelo. Now we go off the claim. for Cesar Figueroa. If he runs back to that race, he will literally lap the field. You have to think he's going to regress. Now, with that being said, he has other races that play with these.
Yeah, he has some good races here at Gulfstream Park. I'm not trying to knock him in any way. It's just that when your gut looks at the last race, you're like, wow, that's impressive, but he's never had been anywhere near close to that number before. Prior, it was a 66 Spire, 4 starts back. I will say it looks well for him that the second place finisher, Mitorito, came back and was a pretty easy winner here not too many race days ago. So maybe that race is stronger than it really looks on paper. It did take him a couple starts to get that second lifetime win, so he figures to be tough. To me, it's one of the 2 horses.
Meteorito came back Sunday to kick off the Rainbow Six and won by the length of the stretch. I think 10 3/4 lengths.
Yeah.
I went about 9 deep in that race. That didn't work out too well. Passion Project to pick up a little bit of the pieces in third, but might need a little pace battle to get a bigger share than that. On to race 3. Now, I mentioned I have my long shot here. Before the scratches and we lose the 2, 3, 5, and 8 out of this race, and it's a $35,000 maiden claimer fillies and mares, about 5 on the Tapeta. There was a lot of speed. Well, that's long gone now. You go to number 6, Perfect Provision, who might get loose in here, if not, probably controls things at the very least.
Last time I was at the $50,000 level, finished 4th, just sat off the pace there and kind of stalked the winner throughout and didn't have enough left in the stretch. Now, it was just, her first start of her 3-year-old career. We hadn't seen her since mid-December. Look at her record. She's 3 for 5 in the money. She's faced tougher throughout her career and now going to try the synthetic for the first time out. I think she makes a lot of sense here.
Trainer stats to take a look at for Safi on the all-weather as well, and he does so good just off of his first career title here.
Yeah, this is actually a little bit more specific, looking at just kind of on synthetic at Gulfstream Park the past 6 months with Junior Alvarado, who has the mount on Perfect Provision. Pretty strong together from a limited sample, 5 for 13, almost 40% in terms of wins, 54% in the money with a $4.80 ROI. Obviously, this one's not going to offer much value today at 7 to 5 on the morning line.
We're seeing it already very early in the new meet, but Safi and Junior have seemingly been teaming together, and I just wonder if that's going to be, if it is going to be a partnership going forward. I think it's going to be a pretty lucrative one. I go to Ride on Beauty, who again I thought could have a chance in here at a big number with all the speed. Well, that's out the window now. She still has a couple things going for her. Blinkers go on, the maiden special weight drop. I would think she's going to be closer to in this short field.
I would think so. The blinkers would kind of suggest that. And you mentioned just second time out, Jose Garofalo had a horse that caught a flyer yesterday in that 4.5 furlong race and was able to take them gate to wire against the boys. So that was a maiden. There's upside here. With Perfect Provision, we look at the record and you think the drop in class, but she's surrendered late in some of her races, so that's a little concerning.
Without a doubt, and the one I said, hey, does have Tapeta form down inside.
Yeah, that's the horse that I thought if anyone could beat Perfect Provision, it would be I Say Hey. Now, that last race on the turf is a little concerning, but as you mentioned, has taken to the Tapeta quite well here, and I think that race 2 back is the one to key in on.
Take our first commercial break here. When we come back, it's Rainbow Six time. Ashley's got a ticket as Ronnie's off for a couple days. Stay tuned.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path. Ground by first inside. Race. And a 1/4 mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. It's last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Brian and Ashley with you. We got 3 down. That means there's 6 to go. That means it's Rainbow Six time. A gross guaranteed jackpot of $50,000 in the pool for race 4. It's a 12-5 maiden claimer, fillies and mares 3 and up. We're going 5.5 on the main. Let's take a look at that ticket, Ashley.
Yeah, no 43.20 for me, 38.40 in my Rainbow Six. I thought the toughest race in the sequence was the first race. It is the biggest field on the card as well today. So I use 4 runners in here, the 1, 3, 7, and 9. Race 5, I'll use 3 horses in this field. I think you like the 7 and 8 there in your early pick 5. I also decided to toss in the number 5, Nixon Joy out of the Louis Duco barn. Race 6, race 7 is too deep. I'll kind of key in on race number 7. I just went to the 6 and the 7 here. Simply the best for Danny Gargan. Looks pretty tough off that second place finish last time out, as well as the number 7, Fulminate for Mark Cassie, who had a good championship meet. Race 8, I used the number 2, C-Arb. My top pick is the number 8, American, of course, for Kathleen O'Connell. And then to wrap it up, just too deep in that nightcap, I was torn between 2 runners. I think the number 8, Vexed and Relaxed, can improve with a better trip this time out. But I also used the number 5, Hatari, for Jonathan Thomas. So I guess I was a little disrespectful that I didn't have the 43.20, but I'm trying to save a couple bucks here.
The legend, it might be home watching and cursing a little bit, but good solid late sequence that held together nicely. We'll take a look here at the 4th. First replay, I'll lead it off here of the day with the 1, Uncaptured Faith, who you have in second, Ashley. I thought this horse would have been right there with this trip last time. I don't know if she would have won, but you're going to see it here when they head off the far turn and deep stretch. She definitely gets whacked off stride a little bit, and I think she would have been right there. She's also on the hard chase throughout, and the winner's going to loop a little bit, and I think she had to do the dirty work. She had to make first run, and she kind of won the battle, lost the war with trouble in deep stretch to boot.
I think it was a good race from her. I mean, Paco was aboard last time out, gets a Misael Jaramillo today, and looking at her numbers, it was certainly a career best effort for her. She only misses by a half a length in here, and I agree. I think looking at her that she's chasing throughout and just can't get the job done, it puts a horse at a disadvantage, especially when you mention the eventual winner. You're going to see Alarm Clock here. Wasn't the pace setter. The pace setter's already kind of crumbling at this point, and Uncaptured Faith still pretty game in the stretch.
Yeah, right there. She kind of gets knocked around a little bit, might have lost her focus just a little bit, and still runs on nicely, and I think it sets her up for a big effort. So I've got her on top. It is a little bit of a spread race for me. You go, we'll take a look at your pick here. You go to the 3, who I've got in second, Fearless Girl. 0 for 9 with 6 underneath finishes, but her form is probably best here.
Yeah, Fearless Girl and I guess Uncaptured Faith have that in common, right? They've had their fair share of chances. They've been close. To me, one of them should graduate today. Looking at Fearless Girl, I thought last time out, pretty nice second on the Tapeta. It was only going 5.5, and so this one was far back early on, and to me, the pace wasn't that quick and still made up some ground, and there was well defeated in terms of winning. Dreaming of Audrey was over 3 clear on the group, but this one's been second in her last 3 efforts. She's been there every single part of the way. So Uncaptured Faith, I guess, in the camp, if you're on camp, Fearless Girl here, we're going to hope for some pace, someone to push Uncaptured Faith.
Latte Lover drew well to be outside some of the other speed, and her last 2 Tapeta races have been pretty solid. Takes a little drop in class today, too.
I think that might help her. I really liked the race 3 back when she finished 3rd on the Tapeta. It was a big field of 10 in there, and I thought she made up some ground. And then last time out, she's kind of pressing the pace throughout. You can see she had to face Dreaming of Audrey, who I mentioned just moments ago, beat Fearless Girl last time out. So I'm wondering what the strategy will be. Hector Barrios climbs aboard this one for the first time.
Wide draw on the 11, banking on you, who quite frankly didn't do any running last time off the layoff. First time Danny Gargan, which just says tread lightly, but I did put her in 3rd. Late pick 5 time in race 5 here. It's a mile on the main track. These are $20,000 claimers, 3 and up. We'll take a look at my ticket. A little better than the first one, I think, $36. We double it up, and this sequence held together nicely, and I think it's a good sequence too. We'll talk about the opening leg here in a second. My new long shot play of the day is First Rule in race 6. We're hoping we break running, take a deep breath, and forget to stop in there. You mentioned Fulminate. That's my best bet of the day, and I think the scratch of Psychic Ability even enhances that even more, loses some of my value. But in race 8, it is 68. No decaf. We'll take a replay look coming up. And then I've got a spread in the finale. The complexion of that race really changed with Jet Force coming out, because I think if she wasn't loose, she was setting the pace for sure. The order for me is 3, 5, 8, 4. Replay of Strong Embrace coming up as well. But back to the 5th here. Ashley, as I mentioned, a flat 1-turn mile here, and what is a little bit of a tricky race. We both have some interest in the 8. You go on top with Man on the Moon, who's he's kind of got that good race, bad race going. I do think he's a player, and I like being outside the other speed to his inside.
Yeah, I think the outside draw certainly helps him. This one's trained by Bob Hess Jr. And for me, it's coming out of a series of starter allowance races, which I'm going to say are tougher than what this one's facing today. And I'm wondering if you look at those last two efforts, they're a little disappointing to say the least. I mean, they were short fields, really wasn't beating much in terms of, couldn't crack the top three. But the one thing I'm noticing, they're both over the slop. I think when you go to the race 3 back, this horse had an 80 buyer going against, starter 40 competition at a mile and finished second. And I thought it was a really good race. So I'm willing to give this one some excuses, and then today gets that class relief.
Yeah, I agree. And if you focus just on that race, which was over the track and over the distance, it probably puts him in the winner's circle if he can get back to it. Little demon for me off the Carlos David claim. Carlos kind of quiet at the championship meet, won some races, but picked his spots. But now I think Barn might really get going, or first time gelding here as well. 33% overall off the claim, and I think we're going to take a look at the trainer stat as well.
Yeah, we'll show the trainer stat. You mentioned Carlos David championship meet was okay. I think he got a win yesterday on the card with this great tune. Just looking at first off the claim with horses that were in the money in their most recent start the past 2 years, 35% in terms of wins from a sample size of 31, nearly 70% in the money with a $2.18 ROI. We know he's good first off the claim, and just knowing that the horse was in good form, I think, is a little bit of a different angle here coming off of Kathleen O'Connell. A game second last time out, just nowhere near disc jockey in the end.
Junior's here as well, so I think there's some intent. This is a horse that really hasn't got a lot of flow help in his starts 2 and 3 back. Today, I think he will get some speed. I also don't really think he's going to be as close as he was last time. We both have the 5, Nixon Joy in third. I believe you used him in the Rainbow, and I certainly did to kick off the late 5.
I'm wondering if he is maybe the same excuse as the number 8, Man on the Moon. They're exiting those same 2 starter 25 races here, both over the slop. 3 starts back at the $20,000 level. He was a winner. He was able to kind of circle the field in there to draw clear. So he's had an interesting kind of career so far, but I just wonder the class relief and kind of the same circumstances if he can, bounce back.
Yeah, he was really good 3 back winning. He should get some pace to run at today as well. Back to the main track in a 1-turn mile in the 6th. This kicks off the late pick 4. These are state-bred optional claimers, 4 and up here. It's a tricky race. We both have interest in number 4, Roan Mountain. You talk about him because I just didn't trust him. He's got huge figures. He's got 2s on the thoroughgraphs. Those races win this. I don't know about that Parks form coming in.
It's tough because you look at his form at Parks, and he's not necessarily winning his races there. If you look at his last 5 or 6, he's finished 2nd or 3rd, but they're game performances. Last time out, he only missed by a neck. I know he's favored in that starter handicap. It was over the mud, though. He was in the Danny Velasquez barn, now goes to Victor Barboza Jr., who does really well with these horses. Horses coming in the barn for the first time out. This horse, you have to go way back, but does have a win here at Gulfstream Park. He's intriguing. You just don't know what to do with the form because it is a different track, and he's coming here, and this is different waters for him.
Favored on the morning line at 2. I tend to agree with that. Parks is a 2-turn outside closers kind of track, and I just wondered if this flat, 1-turn snappy mile could be his undoing. It's another reason. New long shot of the day, as I lost the one earlier. First rule, I don't know if he's loose, but I think he's going to be in front as far as he can take them. I don't see any other true speed, and I think, Ashley, coming out of those 6 furlong open starters, I think it's a send mission here.
I think it is a send mission. He's shown some early foot in the past. Not necessarily that we've seen him on the lead, but he's been close to it. And you look at his last couple of races, he's had to face the Danny Hurtak trainee, Smiling Toyfuls, Absolute Grit, Granger County, all really nice horses. And he's not been good enough to get it done, but he's kind of been there for those minor pieces. So to me, he's pretty consistent here at Gulfstream Park. I just use him a little further down.
Chucky is in the mix too. The 25 starter last time behind Mish is, well, now it would be his stablemate. Safi had him, and he ran off the screen that day. Another coming out of a sloppy track race, but his last 2 definitely put him in the mix here.
Yeah, his numbers actually have gone up in those last 2 races. One at the $8,000 level, and you mentioned the starter allowance event on the main track. Likes the distance. It's Safi. Second off the claim, you'd have to expect room for improvement, and he's training pretty well at Palm Meadows.
Race 7, last pick 3 of the day. We get back to the turf course. Firm turf course here. It's a starter optional claimer. These are state-bred fillies in mares, 3 and up. A very snappy 5, and I think it's a good segue to show the debut of Fulminate, which was right here, albeit last July. Check out this flyer she catches out of the break. Excuse me, she breaks a little slow, and then she zooms up there. And to me, Ashley, and now especially with psychic ability out of this race, To me, she looks loose and controlling. She's worked well for this comeback. She was in some salty spots after this win, and here you see her here. This is just how fast she is. I mean, this is a 2-year-old filly, by the way, and a maiden, first-time starter in July. She is freakishly fast.
She's freakishly fast, and you're just watching her kind of cover the ground, how she's got this big stride over it. She shows no point of stopping in here, and she ends up winning by 4 lengths. So you look at who was behind her, Opalina, who they ended up putting in stakes races and has fared well. So it's been a productive race. I know in her cases, she's been in deep waters. Saratoga, maybe it was deep waters combined with the yielding turf course. Then they sent her to Woodbine. They've given her time off, so it's going to be interesting to see how she kind of progresses now from a 2-year-old into her 3-year-old season.
And if somebody does want to go to the inside, she's perfectly drawn outside to spy them and move forward. You went with Simply the Best on top. Second time off the layoff for Danny Gargan, who did his thing at the championship meet with a huge meet. Now I would think we get the best shot second off.
She's purchased for $175,000, so they expected some sort of ability. I know it took her a couple starts to break her maiden. She did it against Florida Breds over a year ago. That's March 12th of 2021, and then we didn't see her for a long time. She was favored last time out. I thought it was a good return to the races at the 5 furlong distance. Her work since then, not the sharpest, but she really wasn't breezing that sharp into her race last time out. My only concern is I don't have a lot of data here to go with Danny Gargan runner second off such a long layoff. You wonder if the horse is going to improve or if the horse is going to take a step back.
Yeah, it's weird. He's only 0 for 3. It's not a sample to get too hot and bothered about. 31% with when he rides Vasquez, and they've done very good together. So we both have great calf in third, and I think there's a reason for that. As good as Safi is off the claim, not a lot of speed here.
Not a lot of speed, and should sit the trip is made up ground. And basically all of her starts, she's done it in her last 2, and she's missed by narrow margins. She's become a hot commodity. Kent Sweezy had her for a while. Gustavo Delgado, now Safi. So she's barn hopping, but the barn does well with horses first off the claim. Going to get a new rider today as well.
Race 8 is on the main track at 7 furlongs, another state-bred race. These are a 1X, fillies and mares 3 and up. It also kicks off the Stronach 5, so that's about 4:51 in the PM. We're going to show that in a little bit, but just take note of that. It's a good race. We're going to take a look at a replay for no decaf. I'll start it off. You've got her in third. I put her on top in here, and I just want to show the replay here. She's kind of mired in behind a little bit, and I don't think there was a lot going on here, but it was her second start. It was her first start, off a layoff. She's down inside. It was tightened up on a little bit. I don't necessarily know if she wanted to be down in there either. And it kind of, I kind of thought she was about ready to give it up, and she held on nicely to kind of finish it out. Wasn't really asked for her best. And I think today, second off now, it was a pretty substantial layoff. We're hopefully a little bit better outside. Maybe we get a better shot today.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by her. I honestly didn't know what to do with her. I think another thing, last time out 5.5, today 7/8 should suit her better than that short distance. And she's been a little consistent. We've seen inconsistent, I should say. She's made the lead, and then after breaking her maiden, she came back. She ran a game second, and she's been kind of off in her last couple. But I do think she's the one that can improve, especially second off the layoff. She's training well. You look at her most recent; that was over a muddy track, 48 flat. So I think she needed a race, and she's 5-2 on the morning line. I think that's pretty fair in price.
American, of course, is in and out a little bit. You 71, 50, 71. What we get today will to be determined, but she's drawn well. Kathleen O'Connell had a huge championship meet.
Huge meet, and I think he said it pretty well about this horse and several in the field. It's really hard to trust anyone, in my opinion. This is one who was well beaten last time out by Aleka Star, who was runaway winner. She's faced horses such as Cozy Dreams and Foxy Lady, also Domineer, Dem Wonder, who ran really well here recently. For me, the one thing is, does she need the lead to win? Because when you look at her wins, she's been on front. She's been in front by an easy kind of distance as well. So she's kind of struggled in her last couple. But the 5-year-old mare, she's shown some potential here. And I think in a race where you're trying to figure out which one you can trust, I'm going to go with her in here.
Art's going to be in front. I don't know how far she's going to be. She's taking on some older horses, too. And I think the question is, does she get pressed or not? Let's talk about Freak, though, for a second. We've got a trainer stat for Jose D'Angelo. And I got to fade this horse. She just looks off form to me, but let's take a look at the stat.
Yeah, this is just first off the trainer switch the past 2 years. 8 for 32, 25%, almost half the time in the money with $1.88 ROI. It's an Arundel homebred. They still have this runner. It was in the Juan Alvarado barn. They've switched camps and given this one to Jose D'Angelo. Her works have never been flashing. You mentioned she seems a bit off form. Just kind of looking for a horse in the minor shares in here. I wondered if, the trainer switch might help her improve here. She's also getting Junior Alvarado. So for me, I'd only use this one in the bottom of the exotics.
I wanted to pick her. I wanted to try to make her in here. And then I said, you know what? She was on the rail her last couple starts, and maybe that's what it is because she is a
Yeah.
giant horse, right?
Yeah.
She's a big, huge horse. Then I looked and said the comeback was from the rail. So, you know, Jose's so good at getting major improvement out of these horses. This one to me, and it looks like to you too, we got to see it before
Right.
we believe it. And we'll take a wait and see approach. We'll wrap it up in the finale about 5:23 in the PM. We get back to the turf here. 7.5. It's a starter optional claimer for 3-year-old fillies. I mentioned we've got one last replay to show. Strong Embrace, who I thought this is a little bit of a trip here. She's back. She's kind of mired back on the inside a little bit and kind of gets shuffled out of it a little bit. And then, you know, had to wait and when you should be moving. And I don't think this was a great ideal spot to be in. Now she's going to run on the turf for the first time since Mike Maker claimed her. Her debut was on the turf. It was a win at Tampa. It was a slow race. I get it. But hopefully with a cleaner trip here, maybe she can wake up a little bit. Maybe she can move forward a little bit.
She's one that I use, and I used her a little, I guess, lower in my selections. And, you know, you mentioned she wins at Tampa. She gets disqualified, though, in her first career start, and then she breaks her maiden next time out. She's the type of filly that doesn't really do herself any favors early on. She's going to be coming from off of it. We do know on this turf course, it's not that it's impossible, but you do like to be closer to the pace in there. So she's been able to, you know, win from the back of the pack before. I still think that was one heck of a run from her. It was a good performance, and certainly she can step forward second for the barn.
Vexed and Relaxed for you. We'll call her, I don't know if we'll call her the other maker or if I'm on the other maker. One of these got a couple in here. Junior Lands on this one was a decent enough third to build off at the level last time.
So what I'll say about at least this filly is last time out, she didn't do herself any favors as well. She was far back. I think when you look at her run style, she tends to be closer, unlike her stablemate. So I'm wondering with a better trip today, if she's closer to it, it'll kind of put her into contention early. When she broke her maiden at the $50,000 level in New York, she was close to the pace. It was a big field. She only had a couple lengths off the leader and was able to get the job done. So I'm hoping for a better trip from her. She has kind of burned me in her last two. So I guess third time's a charm.
We'll see. I talked about it earlier. The scratch of the two Jet 4s is very important. I don't know if she could have won or not, but she was speed in here. And now the pace is a little more muddled. We both have Atari in second. I think that's problematic for Jonathan Thomas. Puts the blinkers on. She has no speed at all. Maybe it puts a little more tactical speed into her.
She's going to need that today because, you know, we talk about the other horses, but looking at her last time out, she only had a couple horses beaten early on, and they went 25-3 and 51 over the Tapeta. I mean, they were walking 116 for 3/4. So to me, I'm going to hope that the blinkers help her. I think when you key in on her races, maybe it was also the Tapeta, but her turf races, 2 and 3 starts back, were stronger. 2 back at today's distance. She only missed by 3 lengths in the end. But out of all the horses we talked about, she's probably the one that scares me the most that there's not going to be enough pace for.
Yeah, and I think she's going to take a lot of money, too, because she always does. And Jonathan's a high percentage trainer, George Strawbridge, Augustin Stable. So I think she's a major player, but I also think you're probably going to have to take an underlaid price if she is for you. That's the 9-pack on Friday, but before we leave you, we've got the lightning round. Take a look at a few things. We mentioned Santa Anita and the Stronach 5, but we'll kick it off with the Royal Palm Meet, which kicked off yesterday.
It did kick off yesterday, and kind of looking at the races, there were a couple of prices. We mentioned
There's one, I know
when
that.
you look at the first 2-year-old race of the year here at Gulfstream Park, one of the fillies beat the boys, and I think was 35-1.
35-1. Caught a flyer at the start and forgot to stop. So if you had that one, well done. He's back.
I know, we're talking about one guy in general, Paco Lopez. He was 3 for 5 yesterday on the card. Here's him winning the 7th aboard Uno Tiger. I think he won the first on the program
First
as well.
two.
First two, yeah. So Paco is back. He was gone for a couple weeks here, but back in full force.
Yeah, and he's going to win a lot of races here in the spring and summer, so take note of that. And I just love his aggressive style early on. It puts, you know, it takes the impetus and goes, and I think that's, in racing in this day and age, not something we see all that much. I mentioned the Stronach 5, and it starts right here front and center at 4:50 in the PM, 4:50-ish.
About 4:50. Gulfstream just one race from us today, but 2 from Santa Anita, 1 from Golden Gate, and that middle leg is at Laurel Park. And one in the press release is their second to last offering of the Stronach 5, so you don't want to miss out. A lot of action here in just about less than an hour and a half.
Huge weekend at our sister track, Santa Anita out west, and it's none more so than the Derby on Saturday. A field of 6, but 3 of them that you could argue are at or near the top of the list of the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and these are horses that had freaky last
Yes,
out
good point.
performances, some big numbers, some triple buyers, I think, from 2 of the runners in the field. Messier and Forbidden Kingdom, probably the main 2, but the horse on the outside is one certainly not to ignore.
If you haven't seen it, Forbidden Kingdom in the San Felipe was awesome last time, and then it's a huge stakes card in general at Santa Anita. There's a couple grade 2s, a grade 3, depth competition. Stars are showing up.
Yeah, 7 races, I think, are stakes on the program. And I think kind of looking at the back half of the cards where I'm probably going to get most involved, but some interesting horses throughout the card. So I'll have to do some homework tonight. I got to catch that 6 a.m. flight out there tomorrow.
You're going out there. So enjoy, safe travels. The late pick 5 and their rainbow out there is especially good. Stakes races a little earlier on the card, but the late pick 5 is tremendous out there. So keep that in mind. That's it for us today. We'll be back with you for the 9-race card, but we'll send it upstairs to track announcer Pete Aiello for the scratches.
The Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance is really the vehicle for the transition for our racehorses coming off the track into a second career and safe environment for these horses when they're done racing. I've been passionate about racehorses my whole life, animals in general, and without the TAA to provide that oversight, there would be a big void in terms of making sure that we have this ongoing safe environment for our off-the-track racehorses. I'm excited about the undertaking and excited about working with our board and our team at the TAA to continue the wonderful progress that has been made. So I'm very excited about what the future holds.